community, community, community. It's not just the country clubs that I want to put. It's everything about it where it's like, I ain't have to cut this nigga to get it. I ain't have to stun on shorty to get it. Like if you have, I wrote a blog a while ago. It's called What White People Know But Black People Forgot.
Okay.
There's 3 things to succeed in this country: scholarship, partnership, ownership. Scholarship is education. Partnership is marriage. Ownership is land, buildings, equity, whatever. If you attain those 3 things and you protect them, you will win in this country, hands down.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Caffeine and Creatives. I am your host, X. This is the Caffeine and Creative Show where we like to talk to creative minds about creative times and the caffeine that wakes them up and keeps them going. To my right today, I have entrepreneur, writer, talent and brand manager, all around creative. My man said that he needs to be signed by Roc Nation just to come up with his ideas.
Facts.
That's what he said. He said, I don't want to be an artist. I don't want to be an exec. I just sign me and let me work. That's what this man said. To my right, I have owner of HBUC Studios, Travis Cochran. How you
What's
feeling?
up, bro? I stand behind that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I definitely just, like, I always, I'm just always looking at stuff crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like all these kids want to be rappers because rappers are the only ones getting business loans.
Facts.
A record deal, advance, that's a business loan.
Yeah.
You get a business loan to go try to build out your idea.
Right.
So I feel
in
like
hopes that it generates.
In hopes that it generates.
Yeah.
They have equity.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it works out, then they recoup. Or they don't, but they got equity, right?
Right.
So, like, why I can't just be signed as a creative? Like, I would love for this to be bigger and better, but I think we did pretty good.
No, for sure.
I think, you know what I'm saying? I think all my ideas I've been pretty good at, getting them to as maximum potential as possible. So I feel like Roc Nation should really. And I got a Rockefeller tattoo, so like at a certain point, like just come get me.
It's not thanks. I feel it for sure. Which we're gonna tap into a couple of those ideas as well. But I like to start off every show kind of the same, and that is your definition of what is creativity / what makes a creative.
I think creativity and being a creative is different.
Right.
So to me, creativity is every idea that you get from God that you didn't get from people.
Okay.
Because that could be anything, right? Like we all inspired by somebody, but your creativity is literally it's godly, it's euphoric. Like you don't know what creative idea you're gonna have tomorrow. That's between you and God. That's not between you and anybody else.
Right.
I think being a creative is the creativity that you have in your head, you try to build it out in the world. So if you're not trying to build out your creative in a real way, or your creativity in a real way in the real world, then you're not a creative. But if you are, you're a creative to me. And those are separate from even artists.
So what's your definition of artist? Because I know we've had that conversation as well. You said the conversation we had before is there's a difference between an artist and what was it?
An artist and a creative.
An artist and a creative. So creativity and being a creative are two different things.
Fact.
A creative and an artist are two different things.
Facts. Artist can be a creative, but every creative is not an artist, right?
Break that down.
So to me, an artist has a foundation, no matter what their artistry is in, whether that's painting or writing or music or whatever, an artist has a commitment to certain foundational rules or laws that are aligned with their art form.
Like whatever medium of their
like a true artist learns the rules to break them.
Facts.
But you still have certain rules that you're gonna stick with, right? And I think a lot of artistry today is losing its foundation, and that's why it's not really art anymore. But like, it's a bunch of people. Like, hip hop is such a popular genre, right? You know what the elements of hip hop are? The 4 elements of hip hop.
I thought it was 5.
5 elements. I'm sorry. There you go. So you know the 5. Do you know the 5? I know the 5, but go ahead.
Graffiti, DJing, breakdancing. Knowledge is the 5th, and what am I missing?
The most important one.
MC.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people don't know that. So those are foundational rules, right? So like, perfect example, I manage Cantrell. He can do all of that.
Fact.
He's a B-boy. I don't know how good he is at graffiti, but he has a certain appreciation and understanding of each of those elements.
Facts.
And I feel like more people are getting into hip hop, or actually rap, as a hustle versus the art form. So that's why we kind of losing some of the artistry. But an artist has to stick to has to have a appreciation and a commitment to certain foundational rules, in my opinion.
I feel it. So I would assume you consider yourself a creative.
No, I consider myself an artist.
Do you not consider yourself a creative?
Yeah, but like I said, artist can be. I feel like I'm both, because I'm a writer first, right? So just from a basic artistic standpoint is, I'm not gonna write something that's not true, unless I'm writing nonfiction. But I'm not going to write something that's not true to me.
Thanks.
Or coming from a true place, right? Even down to like the traditional, like I know MLA format and all these different rules and grammar. I know one of my most, like, you have like these minor pet peeves that drive you crazy, especially like on social media. My biggest pet peeve is a typo.
Thanks.
That's the writer in me. I don't care how many times I have to rewrite it. Like, I do not want to tweet with a typo. And people confuse that with a slang. No, if it's slang, it's intentional.
Facts.
Typo is I left off a letter, put the letters in the wrong place, or I had bad grammar usage unintentionally. So like, I always tell people, I don't have an ego that's built around not being wrong. So if you see me type something wrong and you correct me, I'm not going to get attitude about it.
Facts.
I want you to correct me, because the writer in me wants to hold true to certain foundational rules.
I feel it. So within that, your artistry being founded in writing, what is that journey of where you started and how you got to this point of where you're at within what you would consider your artistry and creativity? So
for me, writing started in like 3rd or 4th grade. It really became something I cared about in 5th grade, but it was really because I had a crush on my 5th grade English teacher. So she used to let me write to keep me out of trouble. Like, I would be done with my work 20 minutes into an hour class, and she had to figure out a way to like keep me from flipping the class upside down, essentially. It worked sometimes, but like, that was my first outlet, even before sports. So I would write her poems. She would give me feedback on them. I would rewrite them. I would write everything. And then that translated to math, because math is nothing but word problems for real. Like, when you break it down. So like, that was my thing. How long did it take the train to get from Philadelphia to New York? And like, I loved shit like that for both. I like figuring stuff out, and I like anything that had to do with writing. I wanted to like master. So that's where it started. Then sports. There's even artistry in sports. Like, going back to that whole foundational principle thing. The reason why Michael Jordan and Kobe are better to me than LeBron is because of their artistry. So like, LeBron would be a talent / a creative, but he's not his artistry of basketball is not what I consider sticking to the foundation, right?
Would you consider LeBron more of like a technician in that sense?
Nah.
No.
He's pure talent.
Pure talent.
He's pure talent. And the reason why I say that is because the artistry in sports, even with me, like I studied games, and he has that. His IQ is crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked that, because I've heard and seen like stories of like.
But if you just watch Michael Jordan and Kobe play basketball, they're the most fundamentally sound players you'll ever see. Mm. Like from the way they deflect passes, their 6 o'clock, their their precise movements. Mm. And they had such a love for the artistry that wherever their weaknesses was, that's where they put the work at. Fact. Whereas LeBron is a creative where it's like, I'm only focusing on what I'm good at. Fact. So like in 19 years, he never learned how to shoot free throws. That bothers me because it's not the artistry. He's not sticking to the foundations of cleaning his game up. That's not to say he's not a great player. Right. But like he never learned to shoot free throws. He never got a pull-up jump shot off the dribble. Mm-hmm. He was all talent and rhythm, which worked for him. He's 6'8". He's a fucking train, right? But so was Karl Malone. It's just a different game. Fact. Karl Malone is number 1 in scoring and number 2 in rebounding. I mean, like number 6 in rebounding all time, and nobody brings him up. But those same statistical things mean a lot for LeBron. And granted, Karl Malone didn't win no championships, but it's because he ran into Michael Jordan. So it was just the artistry of sports. So when I got into sports, I took that same artistry mentality. Fact. Like whatever, if you say I can't lay up with my left hand, I must spend the whole summer and basically cut my right hand off. Because I have to master the artistry of this game. And that's how I approach that. So then I went on every stage of my life. When I got into the medical field, it was artistry. Right? When I got in the medical field, I was sharpening instruments for surgeries. But I became the best at it because I paid attention to the artistry of how you cut blades, how they use instruments, everything. They have these little things called curettes. They look like, it's like a spoon or it's like a pencil. Think of like them big ass number 2 pencils that you had in school. Yeah. It's like one of them. And then at the end, it has a cup on it about a centimeter wide. And that cup is used to scrape like bone matter and different things out of your body. And they have to be very sharp, but they can't be thick. They can't be too deep. They can't be too flat. It's an art to it. And everybody in the country did it one way. The guy who trained me did it a different way. And I did it a different way. So it's only 3 people in the country who could do it. It's the artistry of that. Like he said, hey, you don't have to do it this way. I'm going to show you the way. No, I want mastery. So that was creativity. And then when I got into this, it's all been the art of whatever I'm doing.
So would you say that the art is your driving motivation of your decision making with most of?
No, I don't think art is the driving force of my decision making. I think art is the driving force of my passion. My decision making is based on what I presume to be logic. And I say what I presume to be logic because, somebody else might, it's subjective, right? But like, even things like, at a certain point, I knew I wasn't going to the NBA. As much as I love the art, and as far as I went to college and played and redshirted, whatever, but like as far as I went, I knew I wasn't going. So I couldn't let that determine the rest of my decisions. My decision making is always based off of logic meets passion meets no fear. So, but you can not have fear and still make sense, if that makes sense.
You can not have fear and say that one more time?
You can not have fear and still make sense. So what that means is like, I'm not scared. I don't think there's anything that I want to do that I can't do. So I'm not scared of any goal or any dream being too big. But I'm also like, I wish I was 6'9". It's not a common sense goal. Or I wish I was, I might feel like I can go be a doctor. But at 34, me trying to go to medical school, it just don't make sense, right? So it's not a matter when I decide to chase a goal, it's not a matter of fear or not. It's like, okay, what makes sense about this too?
All right. Would you say even so within that? Would you say that you find most of your goals being, I don't want to say artistic based, but how much of like your goals and what you feel like you're going to actually get, like that's going to fulfill you as like what your passions are.
It has to have an art to it. Even in business though, like one of my like way out dreams is to like be a president of basketball operations for an NBA team. So it's like that's kind of far out, right? But I won't take the traditional route. Like I won't be the D1 player. I won't be the NBA player who retired. I'll have to be artistic about my decisions and what I go at doing. But like Steve Stout worked for the Knicks now, so he didn't take that route either. So it's still an art to how you get there.
So what I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you very much so value the art of the process.
Very much so.
Rather than even what it is that you're doing. It's like what I'm doing doesn't have to be art per se, or the per se of what, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. But the process of how we get there is art. And do you always find yourself finding the art in
everything?
In everything?
In everything.
Process.
Because to me, love is art, not science. So everything I love is going to have an art element to it.
Do you feel like that's something that's, I don't know if the word would be obscure, but like, do you find yourself being a small percentage of people think that way?
Yeah. I think most people think love. I think most people think love is science. And most people think you have to figure everything out precisely to do it. And I don't think like that. I don't even think.
Why do you think most people think that way?
It's how you condition. Like, if you look at life, everything has a checklist attached to it that they tell you supposed to, even your relationship. Like 90% of these conversations about relationship, none of it is about art.
So what would be the art conversation towards relationship?
If I was wanting to go meet somebody, right? And I was like, they got to do this, and this. Now you could have standards, or you could have preferences, but if you got a checklist before you meet, I'll give you a perfect example. Wale got a bar that says, of course we meet our intentions before we meet the person. It's backwards, right? It's like people will be like, my next relationship gonna be my last relationship. I'm only dating to get married. I'm dating with a purpose. I'm only doing this. You ain't met the person yet. Right? So it's like, I haven't met you yet. Or when women ask you in the first 2 months, 3 months, what are we? Right. Or what are your intentions with me? I don't know. I don't know you. Right? So it's like, where's the art in this? If we're all just like 2 months, this should happen. 6 months, this should happen. If I do this for you, you should do this for me. It's no art. So it ain't love.
Facts. I agree. I definitely think that should be a more common train of thought. But within that, what is the balance between that ideology and what you would describe as effective goal setting?
Because the art is still in how you get there. Right? Like I want this studio to be like impactful, right? I want it to be something in conjunction, a culmination of things that we haven't seen as a culmination. Like individually, it's 1 billion production studios in Atlanta. Individually, it's 1 billion co-op workspaces. It's an art to how I want us to do it and how we put X amount of pieces in the same space. And how do we integrate that into the community? There's an art to that, but I still have to hit certain checkpoints. I still have to make enough money to pay rent. I still have to, you know what I'm saying, do certain things to reach that goal. But it's still an art to it. And like, when you look at, even like in tech, like tech had a storm where like all these tech companies, all these founders of tech companies were getting like all these venture capitalists was just throwing money at it. After Uber, everybody was like, hey, who got the next? Who got the next whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's still an art to who the founder was, and they had to figure that out.
Right.
So 10 years later, a lot of VCs invested in bad companies, but they weren't bad ideas. They were good ideas. They just, the person running them didn't have the right art to get there. So that's the kind of stuff I pay attention to. Like, Steve Jobs didn't necessarily make the best computer. He had the best art around his product. He had the best messaging. He had, the best presentation, all of it, from the way he spoke to the keynotes, to calling them keynotes, to the way the computer looked, to all of it. That's the art in it.
Right.
The science is it had a certain processor to do a certain thing.
Right. But, so it's almost like I'm setting this goal within this passion, like with the art being the passion that I'm connected to. But at the end of the day, I'm always, and what the difference maker is that I feel like that I see in you specifically, and like just creatives in this space like HBUC, is I'm willing to do whatever the work is attached to that passion.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is that we're getting that done. And
I'm willing to lose anything but that passion. Because once I lose the passion, I don't care. Once I lose the passion, it's dead. Like, the idea is dead. But anything else I lose on the way, I'm almost cool with. It's very few things that I'm just like, all right, I'm not willing to part with that for this.
Right.
But it's very few things, and a lot of people not going to agree with that. A lot of people not going to understand that. But I always say goals are sandwiches, right? If you have a sandwich, if you have a sandwich, if I have a sandwich, if whoever is watching this have a sandwich, we all got 2 pieces of bread. The art is what you put in it. Between the bread. One piece of bread is the beginning of the goal, the other piece of bread is the end of the goal, and you got a bunch of different ingredients you could put in between. That's how I live my life.
I appreciate that for sure. Would you say that the HBUC is either one of or the largest creative goal that you've had thus far?
No.
What would that be?
The largest that I've started, like, actively pursuing?
Yeah.
Probably. The NBA might be bigger, technically.
Would you say that NBA is
That's it. It's them too. And they the most quote unquote far-fetched. Right? Like, we got 21,000 square feet and counting, hopefully. I could have went and got a 5,000 square foot room and started this. That just ain't really how I live my life. So, like, I don't like big chains and a lot of flashy stuff. I like big ideas. So
I appreciate that for sure. I think that's a huge takeaway for.
I do want a Rockefeller chain, but
bro, Rockefeller chain would be hard.
That's it, bro. You bury me in that.
He said bury me in that.
For real.
My guy throwing up the rock chain in the back. Let's see, what was I saying? Oh, what have you seen, like, when you start setting those, I don't even want to call them astronomical, because to, like, people that the normal is big goal setting, this wouldn't be an astronomical goal. It'll just be like, it's big compared to other people ideas, I guess, in a sense. But throughout that journey of obtaining and seeing this dream, what was a dream, come into fruition, and actually putting feet to the pavement, and like you actually seeing a quantifiable growth in your goal setting with it. What would you say have been some of the, if there was any, like unanticipated hurdles with keeping that passion that you're saying?
I think the biggest 2 hurdles, one is HVAC. It's a big building. Jesus Christ. The one I didn't really anticipate, I anticipated financial, structural building stuff, right? I didn't anticipate it would be so hard to keep people on the same page about stuff they said they want to do. And it's not to cast like aspersions on anybody, but I'm dumb enough to believe that people want what they say they want as bad as I want what I say I want. Mm-hmm. So if you tell me, Trav, I want to start a podcast, can you help me? If I say I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do, or like kill myself trying to do it. Right? I feel like everybody should approach their goals and their word the same way. But I know it's a whole lot going on, and people have it's been a crazy couple years too. Mm-hmm. But what I realized is people don't cling to what they say they want to do the way I do. I'm obsessive, right? And I'm only obsessive with ideas and like stuff that I care about. Like I'm not like micro obsessive with like where you put the towels and how stuff is. Like I'm not like that, but like when I lock in on something, I lock in on something. So if I bring you into this dream in somehow, shape, or form, and you say you're going to perform a piece of it, it's hard to keep a bunch of people, 5 to 10 people. That's not even a bunch of people. It's hard to keep them in when the setbacks come, or just when it's not flowing on their end the way they thought it should. I believe that getting people to believe in it in the beginning would sustain. So then you see it don't work like that. But then when the winds come, they come back, or some of the energy comes back. So I think that was the biggest hurdle, just like keeping people on the same page. And I don't even know if I should have been surprised by that. Like,
you were surprised by it?
I was. I was surprised by how much had to go into keeping it that way. And I'm not an affirmation person, but it's a lot to run a business in general, right? But I look at that like most people are doing jobs that they don't necessarily care about. They care about the money to feed themselves or take care of themselves. But I feel like if you have the opportunity to do a job of something you say you like to do, it shouldn't take the same amount. I didn't think it would take the same amount of reinforcement, I guess, but it does.
So with you coming to that realization, and you tweet this a lot, and it's one of my favorite. I'm gonna call it an affirmation because you used the word affirmation. Our tables are better.
They are,
and we do better together.
And I still believe that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, same. So my question is, what has that realization done to that slogan for you, and how are you looking at group economics? And I don't even want to call it because I heard you said there's a difference between investors and partners.
They are.
So
big difference.
Right. So break that down and where you're at now with how that correlates to those slogans for the HBUC.
So an investor just gives money, right? To be perfectly honest, for most companies or most investors, they donate money and they watch the bottom line. They don't care about the art of the business. They don't care about most of the day-to-day. It's like, this is a good idea. I'm gonna put some money here. I want this return. Get it, cash flow positive. I don't care what's going on. A partner is somebody who cares about all of the day-to-day stuff, or at least a good majority of it. Like, they're in the trenches with you, whether they put money in or not. So, I have people who didn't put $1 in. They put time and energy and ideas and all of that consistently. I had people who put money in, and, we talk at the end of the year when it's time to send out K1 forms and stuff like that. So, but I think the realization that I just spoke about as it relates to our tables are better, it only heightened my realization that our tables are better. Because what I also realized is over the course of building this, we've had astronomical things happen that I didn't even foresee happening that quick. But we also didn't get our table, our building, our space. We haven't gotten it fully renovated to where I wanted it to be, and it's not pretty enough, right? Which is kind of crazy, but it's not pretty enough. And if it was pretty enough, more people would. I don't think I would have to do so much to convince certain people. A lot of people don't want to be a part of the process. They want to be a part of the results.
Agreed.
And so Our Tables Are Better came from like that time period in my life where I was studying a lot and reading a lot and, just breaking down different people in history. And I don't hate integration. I hate the messaging we needed the seeming precipice for integration is we want to eat at their lunch tables. We want to drink at their water fountains. We could just build water fountains that look just as good or better than theirs and watch them want to come over here. And this is not a racial component for me, but look how we built hip hop. And the whole world came to hip hop. That's how I look at anything we want to build. If the West End looks like Buckhead, white people are going to want to live here, yellow people, brown people, whoever. Black people. So as long as we build it to look as beautiful and as functional as any other place in the world, you won't have a problem having pride in it. You won't have a problem with getting business. You won't have a problem with anything. And we've seen that collectively over history. Now, of course, black people have built stuff like the old Black Wall Street, and they got a new one in Atlanta now. And it got burned down and stuff in North Carolina. And, over time, once they see you building something pretty, the powers that be might try to take you out.
Yeah.
Rebuild it.
Definitely.
That's it. Like, rebuild it. Build it to who's gonna get tired first. That's how I look at it.
And it's not gonna be me.
It's not gonna be me. It's definitely not gonna be me.
That's real.
Unless I'm married. But that's how I look at it.
So I'm not gonna go into marriage because we're gonna be here all day. We start talking about that. But within
You pro.
Hey, debatable. But within that, I'm gonna just say astronomical goal setting. We're gonna call it astronomical goal setting. Within that, what have you felt like and I kind of know the answer to this question. Okay. But it's a common question that everybody is like, it's not even an argument, but it's a common question that comes up. Work-life balance.
Don't believe in it.
Don't believe in it at all.
Not for men.
Why is that?
Women, I'm a big mob movie person, right? And the Godfather says, women and children can be careless, men can't. That's how I feel about work-life balance.
I just saying Nipsey Hussle said the same thing.
Because it's a carelessness for whatever else is going on to have that balance, right? We don't have that option. Because if we rest and everything else falls apart while we're resting, it's on us. We don't have that help. We don't have that empathy. We don't have that sympathy. And I just know that I stopped working for money a long time ago. So it's not even about, let's chase every dollar. Let's burn out chasing money. It's not that. It's I'm eager to have the comfort to do what I want, spend my days with passion. And you can have passion in your relationship, but even my wife should have something she's passionate about. I don't care if it make $1. Like, what keeps you up at night? That's not negative. Like, what wakes you up in the morning? What gets you out the bed? Like, I don't believe that a life without something that you're that passionate about outside of your relationship is a fruitful life. And then when you get down to the economics of it, I plan to be here for a long time. Like, there was a time in my life when I was a young, reckless kid, and I'm like, man, 25 might be tough. Now I'm like, I think I can get to like 105. I
think I can get to like 105.
I feel like I crossed the checkpoint. I can just take this thing as long as I want, right? So I want to retire from day-to-day work before I'm 52. I'm 34, which means I got 18 years to push this shit as far as I can. Financially, impact-wise, how many of these can I get? How many people can I touch? How many kids can I mentor? How many lives can I touch? How many people can I inspire? I'm gonna clock out at 3 o'clock for that and go home. That's just not the way I'm built. Like, I'll never think I never think I have balance in my career with my career and my job. And I've accepted that. And whoever wants to see 105 with me, gonna have to accept that too. Cause like, you know, if I hit my goal, you got the next 53 years of at least me chilling more than I do now.
Right.
So what am I apologizing for?
Do you think that's an attribute that is necessary for anybody that aims to set goals this big?
Yeah, because you think about it, right? How many people? Is 4 billion people in America?
Something like that. I think like
90% of those people make less than 100,000. So that means about 3.4 billion people have the opportunity to have work-life balance. The rest don't. It's really that simple. Plus, like, I love what I do. I don't do things because I don't have to work, quote unquote. I don't have to chase money. I'm gonna get as much money as I can. I'm not working for that. I put myself in a position to only do things I care about, that I love. I love what I'm doing. I don't need a balance of love. I want to love infinitely. I don't need a balance of it.
So what would be your advice to somebody to put themselves in that position?
What you mean?
To be at a point where you don't have to have work-life balance because I'm waking up to my passions every day. Like, what does that look like?
Do what you don't want to do so you can do what you want to do.
How long was that process for you?
Maybe 5 years. So from 22 to like 27. But like from 22, I was making $10 an hour. At 27, let's put it like this. At 27, I had a $15,000 credit card bill a month. But I literally worked in a different state, in a different city almost every day, 5 days a week for 2 years, all up the East Coast. I literally was driving 16 hours to see my son for 48 hours and driving back. Like, I made the sacrifices. So then I got to a point where it's like, okay, now I could pick. And when I started this, I made the sacrifice. Bro, it's 10 o'clock. I'm always here from like 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock unless I'm going out of town or something like that, or something happening. I made the sacrifices because in 5 years, this should be able to operate with 3 or 4 of my hours a day, not 20. And that's what you do. You put yourself into it. And then when you get into the relationship aspect, well, how do you find time for love? How do you find time for your relationship? Whenever you have that conversation with a girl that you're dating, a wife, girlfriend, whatever, ask her, can I love you too much? If I can't love you too much, how can you tell me that I love something else too much? Find your place in this. I'll make a little room, but you got to want to be in the room. That don't mean you got to follow me to work.
Yeah.
But let's pick and choose. Let's pick and choose. Let's pick our spots without you trying to make me always pick your ego over my passion.
That's big.
It's big. It's a big ask.
I feel it. Don't want to take up too much of time because you are obviously not a man of leisure.
We can go all day, bro. It don't matter.
This man
I'm here. Once I'm here, I'm here.
Thanks. I feel it. One question. One question I wanted to ask. Why country club?
So country clubs, anybody who knows anything about business, more deals are made on the golf course or at the country club than in the boardroom. Mm-hmm. This is a relationship business, period. Even when you have the skills, when you have everything else, you still need a relationship. Plus, we just don't have country clubs. And we don't really know where the country clubs are.
Right, it's true.
Country clubs are normally in the middle of some woods, in the middle of nowhere. They go out there, they play golf. And like, if you're fortunate enough, if you're affluent family or you go get a job at one, you see what happens. Mr. Bill introduces his son to Mr. Brad or Mr. Ben or somebody, and now you get an internship, or now you get a job offer, or now you get a job, and that's how a lot of this stuff works. I believe in nepotism. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But the only problem with it is when you can't participate in it. Like a lot of things in life. Like eat the rich, but everybody want to be rich. So it's like, I wanted us to adopt the mindset of helping each other collectively without having to think about it or without having to brag about it. And the only way to do that is for it to be happening so much that it's not special anymore. It's expected. So I wanted us to have a country club for creative people to come in and be able to shoot a photo shoot, work on this. You need an engineer over there. Somebody know that. Somebody, you need a part here. You want to audition here. You want to do this. All of these different things. And a lot of my friends were creative in different parts of the industry. So I was like, well, how can I be around all my friends at one time and make it make sense? So I want a country club.
I love the idea and the concept. That's not new.
It's not.
We
just always late to the game.
Right.
Why? Because we don't have the information. Because we don't have these institutions. And when we have them, one or two things happen. The ones who have the information in the information and the institution, they don't want to lose it, so they stay in the back. They stay out the way. Doctors never come back to the hood. Right? Or we get it and we want to stunt on the people who don't have it. Versus like we was talking earlier, the guy at the corner store down there, once he comes from his native country and comes here and builds the store up for 5 years and learns the business, somebody teaches him business, they pass it off to the next person. He goes here. He's not like, hey, incoming cousin, you got the shitty store. I got the nice store in Buckhead. They don't do that.
Right.
We do. So we're always late to the party. And we like to announce our wins. Other cultures, especially when it comes to, like, there is systematic racism throughout the course of history. Not even just here, right? But when white people put the crime bill in, they ain't say, oh, we finna fuck y'all up for the next 50 years. Yay. They don't do that. Every 20 years, they implant something new to slow up the lower class, right? I ain't even gonna say to slow up black people. They put something there to slow up the poor class. There has to be a slave class. Even if you're not necessarily a slave, you're a slave to your broken economics, so you're essentially a slave, right? So they do crime bill, they do crack, they do no man in the house, they do charter schools with no child left behind. Like, these are like tactical hits that you don't realize until 20 years ago that they up. We get a win, we got to tell everybody. And then what happens? Pew, they shoot your ass out the sky. And they shoot the plan out the sky. So like, think about it. All the black people that's in crypto now, right? Mm-hmm. If that information wasn't online, it might not spread as fast.
Agreed.
But also, if that information went online, when they have these glitches, how many people would get away with it if it wasn't online for them to see it? Mm. Like if we had these small communities where we just taught each other the games. Mm. I found the crack in this system. You found the crack in this system. It is like that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you build so much momentum that they can't stop you. You stop being late to the game.
Mm. So with that in mind, what would you say, even whether this is directly for you and how you see the next decade or so, what is the longevity play for you, and then what do you feel like it should be for culture?
My longevity play is education in all aspects. We have such a disdain for structure in schools and systems and all of that, but that's what a long play is. Mm-hmm. Like, they wasn't killing black people for learning how to read for nothing. Mm-hmm. They not catching cases bribing their kids into college for nothing. Mm-hmm. So the long play is education, because information is everything. Mm-hmm. Right? Then media. It's like I can do a whole bunch of stuff in here and do a whole bunch of clickbaity stuff to like raise our profile and do a whole, but all I'm doing is contributing to the degradation of our culture. Mm-hmm. It's not to say I'm so high and mighty, like, you know what I'm saying? I might turn on Moneybag Yo or whatever when I leave out. Like, but it's just like we gotta have a balance. So education and media is part of education. You learned your ABCs with a song. You learned your colors with a video. Like all of that, that's not a coincidence. So it all runs together. And then community. Community. It's not just the country clubs that I want to put. It's everything about it, where it's like, I ain't have to cut this nigga to get it. I ain't have to stun on shorty to get it. Like if you have, I wrote a blog a while ago. It's called What White People Know But Black People Forgot. Okay. There's 3 things to succeed in this country: scholarship, partnership, ownership. Scholarship is education. Mm-hmm. Partnership is marriage. Mm-hmm. Ownership is land, buildings, equity, whatever. Mm-hmm. If you attain those 3 things and you protect them, you will win in this country, hands down. Mm-hmm. If you don't, you're going to struggle. And people are like, well, fuck it, I ain't getting married. It's so much in this country, as a capitalist country, that's tied to those, to that system, that to think you're going to consistently beat the system without getting married and by pushing this rhetoric that nobody around you need to get married, y'all are going to fail. Mm-hmm. Y'all are going to be overpriced for everything. Y'all going to have asset forfeiture when y'all die because no rights haven't been diagrammed the right way. It's not just a will that you can just go fill out. Like, all of this stuff matters. They built the system the way they wanted to build a system. Mm-hmm. You can't come to the NBA and play like you in the NFL and think you're going to win. You have to adjust to the game that you're playing. Okay. So if you acquire those 3 things, then you do it the right way. And I'm single. But I'm single not because I'm like, I ain't getting married. Mm-hmm. Or I ain't telling my kid who's 12 that you ain't got to go to college to make money. You don't have to go to college to make money. You need to go to college to keep money. Facts. So that's just the nature of the game. And if you don't want to play that game, leave the country. Or be broke.
Facts. Bigger facts. I think I'm gonna go on record and say this is probably one of my top conversations. Yes, one of my top conversations, and it's one of my top conversations, and probably the least I have spoken in the conversation.
I talk way too much. I know.
Not at all, but I'm saying because it's all like very important information. It's like I wouldn't like if I felt the fact that I felt like I didn't need to say anything. Yeah, says a lot because they're like you have certain conversations with people and you'll be like, all right, especially on like platforms like this where it's like. All right.
I feel like you got to fill the space.
Yeah, I feel like I either need to fill the space or I feel like I need to contribute something because this person, one song I'm riding to right now, the Pharrell, 21 Savage and Tyler the Creator record. 21 Savage was like, if I come to your studio session, you ain't talk about nothing, my invoice gonna be $1 million fee.
Yep. Right. I feel him. I felt him when he said it.
I felt him when he said it. But I mean, this is one of those conversations where it's like, just shut up and listen. Like, cause I appreciate. I don't know if you consider yourself an OG.
I don't. Yeah. I'm old though. I got a lot of gray hair too. You
definitely a big brother OG figure for me.
Appreciate that.
So, and I feel like whenever I have, especially like within our culture, whenever I got an opportunity to listen to an older black man talk.
That sounds so crazy.
Whenever I have that, like, you gotta think about it, like.
But I know just the older, like, it's
older than me. It doesn't matter how, like, older than me, like,
34.
Even if you're 3 years older than me.
I feel you, and I think that's a big thing missing. Nobody want to listen to older people anymore in this generation.
But I grew up like that. That was my
me too.
Like I grew up with my great grandmother.
I like even when Reggie, who's off camera, when I met Reggie. I was 17, so I've known Reggie 17 years. Reggie is 2 years younger than me, right? I hung with Reggie. I had maybe 2 or 3 other people from school, but I was always with my OGs, Dre, Keon, Stan. I was always with people who was 10 years. I never wanted to be around people my age. I didn't even want to hoop with people my age. Like, you can't teach me how to get better. And I applied that to life. Like when I was growing up, like I always tell people it's very hard for me to like do check-ins. Like I made it this place, or you know what I'm saying? Or when somebody asks me, where you at? What? Like it's real hard.
It's
hard for me to do that because when I was younger, I didn't have like those parents who always made me account for myself or answer for myself. When I was 11 years old, I would be like on the block with the 20-year-olds till 2 o'clock in the morning and not get in trouble and just soaking up everything that they was talking about. So I'm 9 years ahead of everybody and soaking up their mistakes so I didn't make them.
Right.
Now it's like, it's young, and I was young and rebellious to a sense too, but I'm rebellious against people that I felt like had no value. I always wanted to be around older people who had value or who could take me places or teach me stuff that the people in my age, especially like the boys in my age, I felt like I'm going to get more girls if I got more game than you. And what I meant by game is I got more information. I know more about life than you. So that was always my thing, right? And then, you know, just trying to be around that where it's like now, I got little cousins who will listen to me now because they see all of this. Or they see me pull up in a Benz. But like outside of that, if I like you don't know nothing. Like they don't want to hear nothing about anything we did. Like they don't care about the music. They don't like who hot. Ja Morant is the best player of all time. I love Ja Morant. It's not a knock to him. But they just don't have a appreciation for anything that came before them. And I think that's because of the parental structure that we have in our community now on a wider scale. But it's like you just knew growing up that you had to pay attention to old people because you just had to listen to older music.
Right.
Like you ain't have a choice. Whereas like the music in the house now for a 14-year-old is his music.
This is true.
When I was 14, we was listening to Keith Sweat and you know, whatever Gerald, whatever my dad wanted to listen to. You might just throw some Master P in there here and there, but like when you heard dun, 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 like you knew what. So when May sampled that, I'm like, okay, now we in the same bridge, but like, and I can't. My dad had the party house, the Tower CD cases.
Facts. Yeah.
With the big CD, with the stereo in the middle, with the glass doors, all of that. So like, you was gonna get all of that.
Facts.
So and then because you wanted to stay in the room, you learn the music or you learn what was going on so you can have a talking point to be in the room with older people. These kids don't care about none of that shit.
I think it's that value plus I think one of my personal cheat codes now is finding, like I said, like the big brothers and OGs now that are not so far removed from where I'm at. So like there's like, yes, you should have like those, like how I grew up with my great grandma. Like I remember snapping green beans and shucking corn while she in the rocking chair in the trailer park, like in Williamsburg, Virginia, like country. So
I've been to Williamsburg.
Yeah, so it's like having those elders, but now in today's time, I feel like it's almost even more beneficial to have somebody that's like just maybe at the most 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
Because they're not too far removed from what you finna go in.
Yeah, for what you got going on. And like the communication is a lot.
Speak your language.
They speak my language a lot easier than like, all right, like you under anybody older than like maybe 15 years older than me. It's kind of like you have like somewhat the right concept, but you're not gonna know how to relate it to.
You can't code.
You can't code at all.
Yeah.
Like it's not there's that set degrees of separation. So I value these type of relationships even more so than that, for that reason.
One thing I always tell my little cousins is, I know you want to know about my cars, but let me tell you about my scars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm young enough, I'm hip enough, I'm around all the people you want to be around, and I got all the stuff you want to see. I got a baby blue car, bro. So I know that got your attention.
Right.
But let me tell you about the cuts and bruises I got to get here. And if you listen, you won't get them. But if you do, like, you ever notice, like, when you was younger, like, you knew what a hole was in the backyard? Or you knew where, like, the corner of the table was off and you had to avoid it? Like, it's just little anecdotal stuff like that I feel like they have to learn to have an appreciation for.
Agreed.
But it is what it is.
To wrap this up, because I don't want to go this too long and I want to be able to keep most of this.
Gotcha.
Question that I'm starting to ask my guests. What would you say is your most valuable habit?
Habit or skill?
Habit.
I wake up early. I think at the basis, it starts there. And I know people have this.
I heard Diddy say all the real money gone by 8 a.m.
Fact. The decisions are made. And people got mad at. I remember when Steve Harvey had a clip go viral and it was talking about like, if you wake up after 9 o'clock, you can't be a millionaire or something like that. Dog, you could ask my stepdad. My stepdad used to hate it, right? My stepdad, CFO for a big company, but he's always been successful. But when I was in college, I used to sleep. Like I used to stay up till 5 and sleep till 2. It used to drive him nuts. Like he would call me at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I'd be sleeping. It would drive him nuts. Now, if I'm laying down after at the max 9:30, 10 o'clock, I feel like I wasted my whole day. I feel sick sometimes. And you'll find yourself doing it sometimes because you might have a long run of days where you're just going. Or you might have a late night. Like we might shoot till 6 in the morning. You might have a shoot that start today at 10 a.m. and end tomorrow at 6 a.m. Like that's so in those moments I'm not beating myself up too much, but like 5:30 I'm up every day. Even if I don't get all the way up, 5:30 my body is gonna wake up no matter where I am. And I think that's the most valuable trait because you give yourself time to think before the rest of the world gives you its problems.
Yeah, I tell my wife this all the time. I'm like, I hate when my day happens to me.
Fact. I know exactly what you mean.
I was like, if I don't have enough time to collect myself enough for me to make decisions, then I feel like my day happened to me.
And you be annoyed the rest of the day?
And I'd be annoyed the rest of the day because I feel like I'm put in a position where I'm forced to be reactive.
Yep.
So I 100% feel you.
And dog, like you because you brought up your wife, do she get up early?
Yeah, she gets up early.
Like can you imagine like your girl waking up at 2.
No.
I don't care if you got.
I try to make my wife sleep in.
A little bit.
Sometimes.
But that's that thing. Like y'all could do. You want her to do it, but you're not gonna do it.
Facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just be, but those be the days where it's kind of like you don't have a reason
to get up,
and you have a reason to rest.
But what's the foundation of the word habit? It means you do it when you don't have to.
Right. Agreed. This is true. Hey, I can't say too much. We gonna end. That is a perfect ending note. I appreciate you for carving out a lot of time, because we
had some problems.
But we made it happen, and I honestly feel like this is what needed to happen.
I feel you. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah. Thank you again. Travis Cochran.
I like her top.
Like her top. I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. I'm trying to do this thing where it's like I'm bringing in a mug for my guests that I feel like matches their personality. That was the one. Let the people know where they can find you.
Y'all can ask him why he think that. I'm pleading the fifth.
Do you feel? Was that not appropriate?
I'm pleading the fifth.
My boy Reggie is off camera right now. Reggie, was that appropriate? Facts.
Don't hate. Don't hate Trav. On all social media platforms.
His handle is Don't Hate Trav. Come on.
Don't hate Trav on all social. That's because people hate the truth, and I tell the truth. Don't hate Trav on all social media platforms.
So that's not the truth?
THE HBUC on all platforms if you want to find the studio. And I do like her top. I'm out.
Make sure you following Caffeine and Creatives on all social media platforms, Instagram at Caffeine and Creatives, on Twitter, all of that stuff. It's going to be in the description below. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is Caffeine and Creatives. I'm X. Love y'all.